everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the show. Hope you guys have saved some room in that gas tank because it's time to go one more round with Rob. Here today, we're going to be breaking down the UFC Fight Night card from this past Saturday, headlined by Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad. It was an interesting night, guys, to say the least. I don't know how else to put it for you. Definitely an interesting night. Some great fights throughout the night, and then some interesting sequences and events that went on as well. Specifically with the main card. So we'll get into some of those in a little bit. But let's start with the first fight that I broke down for you guys. Excuse me. So the first fight I broke down for you guys was Courtney Casey versus JJ Aldridge. Coming into this, definitely looking at it going to be a great fight. These two girls are both game, so I was definitely interested to see how it was going to shake out. And let's see what happened there. So round one, Aldridge comes out, kind of takes the center of the octagon. And Casey is kind of on the outside. She's, moving around using kind of more of the perimeter of the octagon there. Aldridge lands a good jab about 20 seconds in. It was really stiff. Didn't really seem to overly hurt Casey, but it definitely landed, and it was definitely a good hard jab to start the round and almost kind of set a pace. So to speak. But Casey comes out, and about 20 seconds after that, so about 45 seconds into the round, she lands a good calf kick. I think I've covered this enough on previous episodes, guys. Calf kicks are terrible. So, starting that off in the first minute of landing of the round, landing calf kicks, definitely a good idea, especially if you think this is going to go further into the late second, third round kind of area. Aldridge, though, not liking the way that calf kick feels, most presumably, ends up getting some clinch control on Casey. About a minute into the round, gets her kind of up against the cage, gets a very brief takedown that Casey kind of gets up pretty, almost immediately. I don't even want to say almost immediately. Aldridge got the takedown, Casey got right up. Casey lands a good right hand off of that break of the clinch about 45 seconds after she gets up from that takedown. And it was just like the Aldridge jab in the beginning of the round. That right hand was really stiff, really hard. I take that back. I don't want to say really hard, but it was a hard straight punch. And it just landed really well for her. The two clinch a little bit after that in more of a Muay Thai style clinch. So the clinch that Aldridge had gotten was kind of more of a Greco-Roman wrestling type of clinch. She kind of had some over-under control there. Then they just get into a straight Thai clinch, and they both start landing some good knees, good punches to the body, a couple to the head. Most of them are though knees to the body, knees to the head type of thing, or excuse me, knees to the body, punches to the body kind of situation. Casey also lands some good shots with just about 2 minutes left in the round, a little bit under that maybe. And it looks like she's really starting to open up and land on Aldridge, and that's going to be her path to victory, which I think that would have been her best case to get to victory anyway. Not wanting to get hit anymore, Aldridge goes in, gets the takedown, kind of controls, lands a couple of shots, nothing overly powerful though. She's just kind of landing shots and trying to do enough to kind of hold Casey down for the round, or at least the rest of the round. But Casey gets up, about a minute left in the round, gets up, and she just starts going to work with her strikes. She like I said, she just goes to work. She's throwing good strikes, she's landing good strikes. And then with about 25 seconds left in the round, excuse me, sorry guys. With about 25 seconds left in the round, Aldridge threatens with a Kimura. They had a little bit of a scramble, ended up on the ground. Aldridge threatens with a Kimura, but Casey gets out of it, and then with about 10 seconds left, she actually tries to start threatening with a Kimura, and that kind of takes them to the end of the round. So in the last 30 seconds there, both girls threatening with their own submissions. Obviously, neither one of them getting it, but it was that sequence there was pretty impressive for me, seeing Casey go ahead and get out of that guillotine and then go right into her own submission attempt there. I was really impressed with how these girls started off this round and how they ended the round too. Overall, though, I gave Casey the round 10-9. I thought she had the better striking. She didn't really take too much damage when Aldridge got the takedown, and then she threatened Aldridge's guillotine submission attempt with her own Kimura submission attempt. So even when she got threatened with a submission attempt on the ground, she was able to answer back with one of her own. So I gave her the round 10-9. Round 2, Aldridge comes out, takes the center of the octagon again to start. Casey seems a little more fresh than Aldridge, though, and that could just be because Casey landed a little bit more strikes on her strikes than Aldridge did, and I think her strikes had a little bit more pop on them just from kind of watching the first round and seeing how everything went. So Casey seems a little bit more fresh. About 30 seconds in, Casey lands a good right hand, definitely stuns Aldridge. But but Casey here she knows she's got Aldridge stunned. She comes in, she starts trying to land more shots, and then she tries to like jump and take Aldridge's back, which I don't understand why she tried that. She was definitely landing with her strikes. I think if she had stayed with her strikes, she probably could have finished Aldridge right there. She chose not to do that. She chose to try to take her back, and that was kind of a big mistake because Aldridge is then able to kind of turn it into a takedown in her favor. And end up on top. So now Aldridge is on top of Casey. Again, it's kind of the same situation as when she got the takedown in the first round. She's controlling Casey. She's landing some shots, just enough to kind of keep him on the ground. But she's also trying to pass to Mount. So she either started off in Casey's guard, in her full guard, or a half guard. I don't remember specifically. I want to say she ended up in her full guard to start. And then she starts to pass to her half guard. She ends up in more of and settles for more of a 3/4 mount, which that's where, they have one leg out. The other leg's kind of intertwined with the opponent on with the fighter that's on their back. They're kind of intertwined with both of their legs. But then they slide their knee almost up onto their thigh. So it's really like from their knee down is still intertwined with the fighter that's on their backs. 2 legs, so they call it a 3/4 mount because you're pretty much in mount at that point. It's just whether or not you want to move, you want to try to slide that calf of yours out to get it over. But Aldridge that is keeping enough pressure to keep Casey down. But this 3/4 mount's also giving her the ability to strike a little bit better and definitely land some harder shots. So they're down there for a decent portion of the first round. Like I said, Casey landed that right hand about 30 seconds in. She threw a couple of different strikes, tried to jump and take her back, and maybe 15 seconds after that right hand that Casey landed, Aldridge was on top. So they're on the ground for a decent portion of the round. Casey gets up and separates away from she gets up, but Aldridge still has her in a clinch with about 1:45 left. About 15 seconds after that is when Casey's able to finally separate and disengage from Aldridge and kind of get her own space back. And she starts to get back to using her strikes. Aldridge at this point seems a lot more defensive at this point in the second round. She's not striking as much. She's really kind of just covering up and trying to evade Casey at this point, which I don't know if that was some fatigue from her trying to pressure and keep Casey down for a decent portion of the round, or if it was just, she didn't want to open herself up too much for Casey to land another big right hand like she did early in the round. Or it could just be a combination of the two. Either way, she's not striking as much as Casey is at this point. She's definitely a little bit more defensive. But Aldridge does get another takedown with about 15 seconds left in the round. Controls until the end of the round. She throws a few strikes, but with 15 seconds left, unless you posture up and just kind of go for broke, you're really not going to land too many strikes with 15 seconds in the round. Not in this day and age of MMA. Maybe if we were still in the early 2000s and late 90s, somebody can get a takedown in 15 seconds and just kind of post up and just start raining down some shots and get a good 10 or 15 in. In today's MMA game, though, that's just not likely to occur. I'm not saying that it can't happen. I'm not saying that it's not going to happen, because it definitely has and it definitely will. But it's not going to be a common thing. Like, you're not going to see somebody get a takedown with 15 seconds left and land 15 to 20 shots anymore. I just don't think it's going to happen. At any rate, Aldridge gets taken down, lands a few strikes, round ends. I gave Aldridge the round 10-9. She had the 2 takedowns in the round. She controlled the first one for about 2.5 to 3 minutes of the round, roughly, somewhere in that time frame. And she landed strikes with both takedowns. Casey did land, when Casey was on her feet, she did land good strikes. Like I said, she had the good right hand that kind of set up that first takedown for Aldridge, because then she tried to jump and take her back. And then when they got up and she was able to separate after that first takedown, she landed some good strikes. But I think overall, they were on the ground for a lot more than what they were standing up. Aldridge had those 2 takedowns. She had the control time, and she landed strikes on both times. So I think if you add up the damage and the control time and everything like that, I thought Aldridge should have got the round 10-9. So I had them split going into the third round. And the third round to me was really, who wants to fight more, who can come out and take control of the round and win the fight. So round 3, Aldridge comes out, takes the center of the octagon again, but at this point she seems to be moving forward more. She seems to be trying to put Casey kind of on her back foot, and really trying to control the pace of the third round. Casey is not throwing as much as she did in the last round, or in the first round for that matter, but she does again land another good solid right hand about 45 seconds in. But this time she doesn't try to open up with strikes as she did in the second round. She definitely doesn't try to jump and take Aldridge back. I think her corner told her, like, hey, that was not a bright idea. We shouldn't have done that. So she lands a solid right hand, doesn't really go after Aldridge too much. Aldridge, though, still trying to walk Casey down. And in my opinion, she was it looked to me like she was trying to get Casey up against the cage again, so that she could go in, get clinch control. Sorry, guys, excuse me. Get clinch control on Casey, and then get another takedown, because that worked so well for her in the second round. Might as well try it again. Like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So that's what I kind of thought she was trying to do. Each one of these ladies, though, they're landing good strikes. Casey lands a good uppercut, though, and then starts to have a little bit more success with her strikes. So that I think that uppercut kind of changed Aldridge's demeanor, so to speak, because Casey landed that uppercut, and then it was just kind of like, okay, Casey either refound her range, or she just landed a shot and kind of made Aldridge pause and think, whoa, how do I really want to continue the rest of this round? And Casey after that then starts to use a little bit more of kind of a stick and move game plan. So she's landing her strikes, couple of shots here and there, just a pop, pop, pop kind of thing. 2, 3, 4 punch combos, and then she's kind of getting out of there, getting back on her bike and moving again. But about halfway through the round, the roles actually switch, because Casey ends up working her way around, and she takes the center of the octagon as opposed to the outside and the perimeter, and Aldridge is more on the outside and the perimeter, which I think was best for Casey. I don't want to say it worked well, because we only saw it for this little bit of time, but you can say that it worked well. At any rate, it was a little bit of switch of the roles there, and I think it was best for Casey, because then she's not trying to, stick and move and try to be aware of how far away she is from the cage, so that Aldridge couldn't get up and clinch her, get a takedown, that kind of stuff. I say all that, and then Aldridge does get a takedown with about 1:40 left in the round, but Casey gets back up. And she gets up, and they separate almost immediately after that, with just under a minute left. So Aldridge really only had her down for about 50 seconds or so at most. Aldridge this was more of a control. She didn't land as many strikes as she did in the second round with this one. So it was a little bit more of control. And then in the last minute, Casey just opens up and she starts throwing more. She's having more success with those strikes. And, Aldridge is trying to answer back, and she's answering back decently. But Casey is throwing more. She's having a little bit more success. Round ends. So we're going to go to the scorecards. I thought Casey took the third round as well, 10-9. I thought she had the more effective striking. When she was taken down, she got back up relatively quickly and didn't take much damage down there. So I thought Casey had done enough to win the round. Now, I will say this. It was a very close fight. Casey held the significant strike advantage in the first and second rounds. But Aldridge actually had the significant striking advantage in the third round. So that's the number of significant strikes that they landed. Casey held the advantage in the first 2 rounds. Aldridge held it in the third round. And I understand I did give Casey the round. And like I said, I thought she had the more effective striking. I'm not saying that she landed more than Aldridge, because clearly by the numbers, Aldridge landed more than her by a fair amount, actually, in the third round. But I thought Casey's strikes were more effective. So I thought she had a little bit more pop on her strikes. I think she had, I think when she landed, Aldridge noticed it more than when Aldridge landed on Casey. And I could be wrong. That's just how I kind of saw the fight. And that's how I kind of saw the third round. So I thought Casey had done enough to get the first and third rounds. I thought Aldridge had the second round. Well, let's see what the judges say, though. So the judges came out. The scorecards were 29-28 for Aldridge, 29-28 for Casey, and then the third and final judge scored it 29-28 for the winner by split decision, J.J. Aldridge. So, like I said, that third round was probably the one that kind of swung the other way from what I was thinking. I definitely think the first round went to Casey, and I think that was kind of I think that would have been the one that myself and the judges agreed on for Casey winning a round. Second round, I think, would have been the one for me and the 2 judges anyway, agreeing that Aldridge won the round. And then that third round, obviously, I don't want to say obviously, but I think that's the round where the 2 judges that gave it to Aldridge also gave it to. I think that's the round that they gave it to Aldridge that I didn't. Nor do I think that the one judge gave it to that gave the fight to Casey. I think he or she gave the first round and third round to Casey, the second round to Aldridge. That's just what I think. I haven't seen their scorecards yet, but that's kind of my thoughts on it. Like I said, very close fight. I thought Casey had done enough with her striking in the first and third rounds to get it. Like I said, despite not landing as much on the significant strike numbers as Aldridge did in the third. But I don't have a problem with Aldridge getting the decision either. It was definitely a close fight, definitely a good fight. So I wasn't upset with. I didn't. It didn't bother me that Aldridge got the decision. I thought that was a fair decision as well. So second fight I got for you guys is number 12 strawweight. Number 12 ranked strawweight fighter Angela Hill versus Ashley Yoder. Now these two all have fought one time previous to this fight, and that was back in 2017. It was at the finale of The Ultimate Fighter season 25. So they had fought before. That was a very good fight. It was a very close and even fight. Yoder did a lot with her wrestling. Angela Hill did a lot with her striking. So it was going to be very interesting to see, roughly 3.5, 4 years later, how these two ladies were going to come out, and if anything was going to be different than the first one, or if it was going to be a close fight like the first one. So let's get into it. So round one, Hill comes out. She takes the center of the octagon, and she just appears to be using the pressure and pace that she has become known for. So she comes out, she takes the center of the octagon, and she's good upper body movement. She's moving a lot. She's moving a lot in terms of actual moving with her legs. You know, she's kind of mixing up like her hand position, kind of coming up and down with them. She you know, definitely starts to try to set a pace that maybe Yoder couldn't keep. So in the first minute, there's not a lot of striking, not a lot of anything going on. Both ladies are just kind of looking for their openings. Like I said, Hill came out and she started pressing and using her pace and pressure that she's become known for in the last 2 or 3 years there. Probably 2 years. But at any rate, you know, she's using that pace and pressure. There's not a lot going on in that first minute. They're trading some kicks, trading some punches, but nothing's being thrown with an aggressive amount of power. So they're going through it. Hill ends up the kind of the biggest thing that I noticed first was with about 3 minutes left in the round. So that's about 2 minutes since the beginning of the round. Hill establishes a clinch up against the cage and starts to kind of use some shots to the body. Again, nothing overly aggressive, nothing overly hard, but she's using those shots. Yoder tries to trip her, but she gets her down briefly. They kind of end up side by side. Instead of Yoder being able to trip and end up on top, they end up kind of side by side. And so Hill gets right back up from that. Yoder gets separation from Hill with about 1:45 left in the round, but then Hill starts landing some good overhand rights. So it just kind of, she was just kind of able to start doing it. She came up, she just started landing some good overhand rights. She lands 2 or 3 overhand rights in a row and then ends up getting clinch control again up against the cage. She uses that. She gets a takedown. She lands some hammer fists to end the round. Like I said, I think when she got the takedown, it was about 20 seconds left in the round, somewhere around there. And in the last 15 seconds, she gets some good hammer fists to end the round. Like I said previously, like that's not, when Aldridge got her takedown in her fight with Casey, and, I said that she didn't really land a lot of strikes. She landed a few. Angela Hill got the takedown here, and she was like, look, there's not a lot of time left. I'm just going to posture up and just start throwing hammer fists at you. And that's what she did. And that's how the round ended, was Hill on top landing some hammer fists. Hill took the round 10-9, in my opinion. She had the better striking. She had the clinch control. Yes, Yoder had that one trip there that I am not sure if they counted that as a takedown or not. I don't think she established enough control to qualify it for a takedown on her part. But Hill got her takedown, and then she ended the round with strikes. She was able to, and effective strikes. So I thought it was quite easily seen to be Hill's round 10-9. Round 2, Hill comes out. She appears to be a little bit more fresh than Yoder at this point, and it's probably because of how that first round ended. So she seems a little more fresh, and she comes out a little bit more aggressive than she did in round 1 here in round 2. She's moving forward a lot just in the first minute. I mean, just as she was in the first round there. And Yoder is definitely more on the defense, but she's still landing some shots too. But they definitely seem to be a little bit more labored than Hill's shots. Than Hill's shots. I'm sorry. She's like I said, she's landing, but they just look like she's having to use more energy than Hill is to throw. And like I said, that could be because of the end of the first round as well. She got taken down. She had, the hammer fist coming down. She definitely absorbed more punishment in the first round, or she absorbed more shots in the first round than Hill did. So that can wear the gas tank as well. So I think that's kind of what was going on here. Hill is still pressing forward throughout this round. She's landing the stronger shots. She's landing more body kicks this round too. So Hill really started to go to work with the body kicks. They're mostly front kicks to the body or roundhouse kicks to the body. Not really any kind of other variations of kicks outside of those two. But like I said, she's landing them. She's landing them strong. She actually lands good hard knee to the body of Yoder as well, with about a minute left in the round. And you can see these body shots are starting to bother Yoder. They're definitely starting to bother her. And it's how do I want to say this? It's definitely visible. I think it's definitely visible that you can see that Yoder is starting to be bothered by these. And so with about that minute left after Hill lands that knee, she starts just attacking the body. And she does this. She gains a tie clinch, and she just starts throwing knees like crazy to the body. Yoder, though, times her knee. She either was really timed Hill's knees really well, or she just got really lucky. I don't know. But she ends up getting a takedown off of one of Hill's knee attempts. I think, Hill had landed one knee, and she was trying to start to throw the second knee, and that's when Yoder just kind of wrapped in and got the takedown. Holds Hill down until the end of the round. But Hill is landing some good elbows from the bottom as well. So Yoder's just I think Yoder was just trying to get to the end of the round and survive till the third. Hill was just like, okay, I'm just going to elbow you then. So she's throwing good elbows from the bottom. Round ends 10-9 Hill, in my opinion. I don't think there was another way to score it. She had the more effective striking when they were standing, and even when she got taken it down at the very end of the round there, she was throwing the elbows from the bottom. She had great pressure and pace throughout the round. I thought the round was quite easily seen again for Hill. Round 3, Yoder comes out and she's trying to pressure Hill. I think she knows she's down 2 rounds. She's got to get a finish to win. Hill, though, gets a clinch control about 20 seconds in to kind of stop that pressure and pace that Yoder was trying to come out with. And she goes back to the knees to the body. And this third round was really all centered around a body attack from Hill. She starts landing the knees to the body. Yoder's trying to defend the knees. They separate. Hill just continues to attack the body. She's throwing hard knees, hard kicks to the body, good strikes to the body. Yoder at one point does get a takedown and gets to half guard to try to land some strikes, but Hill gets back to her feet with about 30 seconds left to finish the round, or left till the end of the round, and just finishes striking. And again, going towards the body. She's landing kicks. She's landing her punches. She was really trying to attack the body of Yoder to see if she could get Yoder to fall and get out of the round early. Third round was 10-9 for Hill as well. Like I said, Yoder got the takedown, got the half guard, tried to land some strikes, but I don't think that made up for all the damage that Hill was able to do while she was standing, especially going to the body of Yoder. So I gave the round 10-9 to Hill. So we go to see what the judges think. The judges saw it the same way I did. They gave the unanimous decision win to Angela Hill, 30-27 on all 3 scorecards. It was a great fight from Hill. I think she deserves a top 10 opponent the next time out. I do think Yoder deserves another shot at a number 12 to number 15 opponent her next time out. Hill has just become so good at being a pressure and volume fighter since their first fight that I don't think Yoder was expecting that much of a pressure, pace, and volume type of fight. I think Hill won her fight previous to this against Jessica Andrade, I believe it was. Or I'm sorry, no. I'm sorry, it was Claudia Gadelha. I'm sorry. I thought she won that fight against Claudia. I really did. I thought that was a very close fight, but I thought she won the fight. The judges did not agree with me on that night, but she definitely came out and showed tonight, like, hey, I'm still a great pressure and pace and volume fighter. And so I think she deserves somebody in the top 10, if not close to that top 5 ranking. But like I always say, we'll see what Dana White and the matchmakers at the UFC come up with. So the next fight was the Angela Hill Ashley Yoder fight was the final prelim fight. So that was their featured prelim fight of the night. The next fight, Eric Anders versus Darren Stewart, was actually the first fight on the main card. So let's get into this one and let's see how it all shook out. So round one, both men come out. They meet in the middle of the octagon. They're not really throwing any shots. Both guys know that the other guy has some good power. So they're both kind of trying to feel each other out, kind of find their range, pick their shots kind of thing. And they're not, like I said, they're not really throwing a lot. They're trying, essentially they're trying to size the other guy up. I don't think there's any other way to put it. They're trying to size him up. They're trying to get the feel for him. Just about a minute into the fight, they start to get into an exchange. Stewart tags Anders at least twice in the exchange. Anders tries to get a takedown off of it because he doesn't want to get hit anymore by Stewart. He's felt Stewart's power and he's like, no, let's get a takedown and not have that happen again. And he does gain some clinch control. Now, Anders starts to go to work in the clinch. He's landing some good knees in the clinch. The two separate with about 2 minutes left. Like I said, he landed some good knees in the clinch. That was really kind of where he went to work. So the 2 minutes left, they separate. Both guys are landing some good shots. Anders lands some definitely good shots on Stewart before he gets clinch control again. And he gets that second round of clinch control with about a minute and a half left in the round. And again, he starts to land some good shots. Knees, punches. He drops Stewart with just about a minute left. And he starts to land hard and often on Stewart. His punches and everything like that is really going to work. Stewart ends up getting back up a little bit. Anders drops Stewart again, but this time, while Stewart's trying to get to his feet, so he's down. I believe it was his left knee was up, kind of up against the cage. His right knee was down, essentially in between him and Anders. So while Stewart's trying to get up to his feet in that kind of way, Anders throws a knee that mostly hits the arm of Stewart, but where Stewart's arm he was up here, he was blocking his head, so the knee comes, hits most of the arm, gets a little bit of Stewart's head, which, because Stewart was down on his right knee was still down at that point, he was still a grounded opponent, so that's an illegal technique, since he was still kneeling. So they get a break in the action. Herb Dean was the referee. He stepped in, said, hey, we need a break because that was an illegal technique. And so they break. He calls the doctor in, which is normal for these situations. Excuse me. They come in, and the doctor ends up calling the fight and stopping the fight. So the fight was ruled a no contest. Because they hadn't completed the round. There was no way for the judges to really, the judges could score it, but being that it was ended in the first round in MMA, it's considered a no contest. They need to run this back. They need to run it back. It seemed like it could have been a fight-ending sequence for Anders, or Stewart was going to just barely survive to the second round from the looks of it. I just think they need to run it back. The two guys had good exchanges up to that point, and it was just an unfortunate thing. Anders, it wasn't anything malicious. Anders was and Anders wasn't, so unlike the fight from last week, the Aljamain Sterling Petr Yan fight, where Petr Yan was warned not even 10 seconds before he threw his illegal knee, which circumstance that both of Sterling's knees were down. He was clearly a down opponent. In this instance, Stewart was kind of on his way up. So he was working to find his way up. And in that moment, Anders may have thought, hey, he might be up at this point, so I can throw. And at any rate, it was an illegal knee. I'm not trying, I'm not trying to say that one illegal knee wasn't. What am I trying? I'm not trying to say that one illegal knee was okay, and the other one wasn't. Both of them were illegal. Neither one of the guys should have thrown it, whether it was Petr Yan last week or Eryk Anders this week. But when you look at the situation, Eryk Anders' knee was not as bad of a situation as Petr Yan's. And so here's the thing with it is Anders was immediately apologetic. He almost immediately after the knee landed, he was like, "Oh crap, I screwed up." Like he was immediately apologetic after the knee, and then again after the fight stopped, he was stopped and the no contest decision was read. He went over and he told Stewart, he was like, "Bro, I'm sorry." He made either a Twitter or an Instagram post about it. He's just overly apologetic. He absolutely did not, mean it. It was one of those heat of the moment things. And the other thing is Stewart wanted to keep fighting. He didn't appear to be as hurt as Sterling appeared to be hurt last week when Petr Yan landed the knee on him. He didn't seem to be as hurt. Like he was definitely like, "Whoa, hey, like that wasn't cool. I wasn't expecting that because I was a grounded opponent." But he wasn't. He wasn't. Like I said, I don't think he was as hurt as Sterling was. In my opinion, the reason that this fight was stopped was because the ringside doctor was uncomfortable and nervous about making a decision. In my opinion, most likely because of the Aljamain Sterling Petr Yan fight from last week or from the previous week. I think he was noticeably uncomfortable and nervous about making a decision because of that. He exited the cage at one point. Herb Dean, the referee, called him back in and said, "Doc, what's your decision?" And he kind of stood there for a second and was almost like, and then he looks at Darren Stewart and he says, "Darren, walk towards me." Which Stewart does immediately. He walks towards him. He says, walks towards him just like a boxer would when the referee's checking him after the standing 8 count. He walks towards him. He says, "Doc, I'm good." The doc looks him over and tells Herb Dean that he's calling the fight. Now, I will say this. Stewart did sway a little bit, but him and Eryk Anders were going hard that whole round. So he no doubtably was at least a little fatigued, because of going so hard in the round up to that point. And I think that has to be taken into account as well. Now, I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that is the case every time. I'm not saying that, for the previous week when Aljamain Sterling got hit with the illegal knee from Petr Yan, like that was in the 4th or 5th round, I believe. It was definitely in the 4th or 5th round. I don't remember. I believe it was the 4th. At any rate, I'm not saying in that instance you're like, "Oh, well, Aljamain was getting beat up pretty much the whole round or the whole fight anyway, so that could be why he's having some of this pain." Like, no. This is definitely a situational thing, and you have to take each situation into account. And I just think in this instance, the ringside doctor or the cage side doctor did not take that into account as to, well, this guy was going hard the whole round. Like, yeah, he's probably a little fatigued, and that knee really didn't land super hard directly to the head. It landed more on the hand, kind of grazed off maybe the top of his head. But the guy was still coherent enough to be like, "Doc, I'm good, let's go." So and I'm not saying that the safety of the fighters is not important at all. It definitely is. But in this case, I don't think his safety was looking at his mannerisms and how he got up and how he walked to the doc immediately and was like, "I'm good, we can go." Looking at his mannerisms, I don't think that he would have not been able to safely defend himself if they had restarted the fight. And in my opinion, I think the cage side doctor made a call out of a lack of confidence and somewhat fear. I'm not saying that he's a bad man. I'm just saying in this instance, that's kind of the feeling that I got from it. At any rate, like I said, I think they need to run this one back. They need to run it back. That's all I can say for it. Yeah, they need to run it back. Moving on. So our co-main event was in the light heavyweight division. It was the number 11 ranked Misha Serkinov versus the number 13 ranked Ryan Spann. Both guys, huge power. I believe they said Serkinov hadn't been out of the first round in a win since 2016. Ryan Spann in his fights, in the UFC has definitely had some power in his hands. So definitely setting up for some fireworks. Let's get into it. Round one. Spann comes out, takes the center of the octagon immediately, and both men start throwing almost right off the bat. Like if these two men were face to face when the bell rang, they probably just would have started throwing right as soon as they heard the first ring of the bell. It was amazing to see. Like come out, Spann, like I said, Spann takes more of the center of the octagon. Serkinov is more kind of on the outside, so to speak, but they just start throwing, and they both start landing some solid shots. Serkinov lands a good pair of right hooks, but then Spann drops Serkinov with a straight right hand, leads to landing some punches and hammer fists while he's on the ground. But Spann at this point, he's on the ground, he's landing some shots, and you can hear Spann's corner say, hey, let him up. Don't stay down there with him. Or something that, I don't want to quote them as saying that, but that to that effect, they're saying, hey, let him up. Don't stay on the ground with him. Because they know that Spann had Serkinov hurt. So at that request, Spann lets him up. And shortly after letting Serkinov up, Spann lands a good left hook to right about the right temple area. Just kind of a graze, so to speak. It wasn't like a hard boom straight in. He kind of clipped him, so to speak. But that clip on the temple, especially coming from somebody that can throw like the way that Ryan Spann can, is going to drop any man that he can get it on. And it happens here to Serkinov. Drops him again. Spann then finishes the fight with a flurry of punches on the ground. Referee steps in, calls it off at that point. Winner of the fight by TKO is Ryan Spann in round one. And this fight was only 1 minute and 11 seconds long, guys. There was so much action packed into that minute and 11 seconds. It was amazing. It was just amazing. I don't know how else to put it for you guys. I had a hard time keeping up, trying to jot down notes for you guys to kind of go through everything for you. It was that high pace of a fight. It was that high pressure, high volume of the fight. It was just amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I think Spann definitely deserves an opponent in the top 10 in his next time out. He's saying like, hey, I should be in the top 10, the next time out. When these two were originally scheduled to fight before, and at that point, Serkinov was ranked number 10. So Spann said in his interview, after his post-fight interview with Daniel Cormier after the fight, that, he was looking at it like, hey, I'm fighting the number 10 guy. Serkinov dropped to number 11, probably from some inactivity and some other fights that happened in the light heavyweight division kind of thing. So I think Spann should definitely get at least a number 7 or 8 guy, if not a number 6 guy in the division. I don't know that I want to see him fight somebody in the top 5 yet. Those guys are killers. And not that I don't think Spann has the power to handle that. I don't want this. I want to kind of see him progress kind of step by step in his career and not try to rush to a title shot and just get outmatched. Because if Jan Blachowicz is still holding the title when Ryan Spann gets to him, that's going to be a very interesting fight and a very difficult fight, in my opinion, for Ryan Spann. Because we've seen Jan Blachowicz use his wrestling. He did that to retain the title against Israel Adesanya. So I want to see him get a number 7 or number 6, 7, or 8 guy. I don't really want to see him crack the top 5 yet. Serkinov, let's see if he can stay in that range of the top 15 guys and see if he can kind of get back on a winning track here and then we'll go from there. Overall, great fight while it lasted. Like I told you guys, they both came out. It was fast and furious. It was really great fight overall. Hard shots connected on both sides. Great co-main event to set up for the main event, which was the number 3 ranked welterweight fighter in the world, Leon Edwards, versus the number 13 ranked Belal Muhammad. Now, Leon Edwards hadn't had a fight since July of 2019. He had a fight scheduled last year around this time, actually, but that fight card ended up being canceled because that's when COVID-19 started to become a huge issue here in the United States. And then he's from England, and because of England lockdowns and everything, he wasn't able to train as much as he usually would. So when he was offered a couple of different fights, he didn't feel that he was in fight shape to take the fights. So he ended up not being able to take them. He ended up not having a fight last year at all. He was supposed to fight a couple times. I believe it was November and December against Khamzat Chimaev, but Khamzat ended up getting COVID, so he couldn't do the November show. They ended up not being able to do the December show either because Khamzat just wasn't ready. Then it was supposed to be, I believe, earlier in February. Khamzat not ready again. And then, like I said, I did a Facebook and an Instagram update on this. Khamzat ended up falling out from this fight as well, and Belal Muhammad stepped in. Belal Muhammad, though, had a fight exactly 4 weeks prior to this fight with Edwards. So he was definitely in shape. But I had a discussion with somebody where I said, I don't know if a quick turnaround against a guy like Leon Edwards was a good decision for Belal Muhammad. Not because I don't think that, if he had a fight camp, he wouldn't be able to have a good fight against Leon. I just didn't think that, essentially when you take a fight 4 weeks out, especially how Belal had come off of a fight, that first week is kind of, I would assume, would be him kind of doing some active recovery at that point. He's doing some bag work, some shadow sparring, some pad work with guys. The second and third week, he's maybe doing some light sparring with him. And that fourth week is just cutting weight again. So he really only has like a 2-week time period where he's actually doing some type of legit training like he would have for a normal fight. And I just didn't think that was enough time to get ready for Leon. But I've been wrong before. Guys have surprised me before. So let's get into it and see what happens. So Muhammad comes out. He takes the center of the octagon immediately. And Edwards is kind of on the perimeter, but pretty soon thereafter, Edwards circles. He takes the center of the octagon. So he takes that center cage control. Muhammad, though, is moving forward early. He's putting pressure on Edwards. I think he's trying to see if Edwards' gas tank isn't what it had been in the past because of that, year and a half, almost 2-year layoff. Because the last fight that Edwards had was back in 2019, and that was in July of 2019. So you're looking at a 21-month layoff, roughly. So I think he's definitely trying to push the pace to see if Edwards, if that's going to affect Edwards' gas tank. Unfortunately for Muhammad, Edwards lands a good 1-2 about a minute in, and that kind of sets the pace for Edwards. That I think helped him find his pace. Muhammad's trying to land a lot of his left hook a lot early. He's really throwing his left hook, but Edwards throws a good head kick about 2 minutes into the round that definitely rocks Muhammad, and Edwards just goes to work after that. He starts trying to land some hard shots. He's throwing them often. He's throwing them a lot. Edwards engages in the clinch, controls Muhammad up until about 2 minutes left in the round. That's when they separate, and Edwards starts finding success with his kicks, low kicks, body kicks, head kick, the head kick that I said. Edwards is having a lot of success with his kicks, and especially after that separation from the clinch was the low kicks and the body kicks. That's what Edwards was landing those, pretty consistent, as he was throwing them after they separated. he's landing the harder shots, than Muhammad. At least that's how it seemed to me. It seemed that the shots that Muhammad was landing on Edwards just didn't really have the same pop that Edwards' shots were having on Muhammad. So the round ends, and I gave the round 10-9 to Edwards. Like I said, he rocked Muhammad with the head kick, got some clinch control, controlled him until about 2 minutes left in the round, landed the good low kicks, body kicks. His shots just had more pop on them. I just think he was hurting Muhammad more in that first round. So I gave it 10-9 to Edwards. Round 2, both guys come out. They're throwing a couple of jabs. And as Edwards goes to throw, it was either he went to throw a body kick, and he kind of extends his arm, hand open, not in a fist, ends up poking Muhammad in the eye. And it immediately, Muhammad is in noticeable pain. In noticeable pain. He actually, I think it was while he was on the way to the ground after getting poked, he just let out a I don't want to say a scream, but it was he let out a yell in pain. It was definitely obvious that eye poke bothered him. And almost as soon as I heard that yell, I was kind of like, oh, this isn't good. This fight will probably get stopped because of this. I would have been surprised if I was sitting there and I was like, I'm going to be surprised if this isn't stopped. So the cage side doctor comes in. He kind of looks at the eye. He's asking Muhammad a couple of questions there. And, he at that point, Belal Muhammad looks at the doc and he says, he's like, I'm having trouble seeing out of that eye now, So the ref is standing there. He hears that and he says, okay, great, we're done. This fight was also ruled a no contest. So it's 2 fights on the main card that got ruled a no contest due to I don't want eye pokes are illegal, but I don't want to say this was an illegal blow because it's not like Leon Edwards did it on purpose. It's not like he was just like throwing his hand out there to jab him in the eye. A lot of guys will do this when they throw a kick, is they'll kind of put their hand out, and it's almost to like stop the other guy from punching them, because that's a good counter for somebody to do when their opponent's throwing a kick at you. You step in, you land a good punch. A lot of guys will put their hand out there as they're kind of throwing a body kick there, so that it's almost like a parry or a block of that whatever hand they're trying to touch. So that person can't throw a punch at them. They'll also do it to kind of block the person's eyes, so that it's almost like they're trying to like cover their eye, their opponent's eyes up, so that they can land a kick. So it is an illegal blow, yes. Do I think it was thrown in a manner in which that it was intended to be an illegal blow? No. At any rate, the fight's ruled no contest due to the accidental eye poke. That's the second fight, like I said, that ended that night in a no contest. It was the first, incidentally, or coincidentally, it was, the first fight on the main card and the last fight on the main card that ended that way. But just like Eric Anders in his case, Leon Edwards was immediately apologetic. Clearly did not mean to poke Belal Muhammad in the eye. It just happens in this sport. And it's mostly due to in my opinion, the unfortunate nature and the misconstructed, I'll say, for lack of a better term, nature of the gloves that they use in MMA, specifically in the UFC. And I say that because there are gloves on the market that would definitely minimize this problem a lot more. So the way the UFC gloves are, I wish I would have thought of this before. I have a pair down in the basement, in my basement here. But the way their gloves are set up is they're just completely flat when you get them out of the package, completely flat like this. So you really have to force your hand into a fist and to stay in a fist. And it's really difficult to do, especially over a whole round, especially when you're like, oh, I'm just going to throw a kick. Let me relax my hands so that I don't wear out the muscles in my arms and my forearms. there are types of gloves on the market, and there were gloves there was a organization in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was based out of Japan. It was called Pride Fighting Championships, where they had gloves, and there's gloves that are still on the market today, where they kind of had a more of a curved, like this design, so to speak, roughly. Not exact there, guys, but roughly. So it's a lot easier for you to kind of just do this and keep your hand in a fist. And you still have the ability to clinch and grapple and everything like that. And I don't know why the UFC, I do know why the UFC doesn't use these type of gloves. But I will save that for a future episode. I'm probably going to do an episode on this relatively soon on the gloves of MMA. So stay tuned for that episode. But I just hope that soon the UFC and just MMA organizations in general start to use these kind of gloves where it keeps the fighter's hand more curved like this, so that we see fewer of these eye pokes in the future. Now, I think they're going to run this one back, and I definitely think they should. I know Leon, after the fight in his interview, said that he wants a title shot next. I don't think that's right. And, I think deep down in his heart, I think he knows that that's not right either. I don't see the UFC giving him a title fight off of this. I don't. Not that he wasn't impressive in the first round, and I think he was, clearly in control of the fight and winning the fight up until this incidental eye poke. But because of the way it ended, I don't think the UFC is going to give him a title shot off of this. I could be wrong, but I don't think they will. I think Belal Muhammad deserves to have this one run back. Like I said, not that I thought that he, it was a back and forth fight up until that point. Leon Edwards is clearly in control in that first round. And he probably could have continued it to win the fight, but the way it ended, I just think they need to run it back, and I think they should. Like always, we'll see what the UFC and Dana White and Sean Shelby and the matchmakers want to do, and whatever they decide is what they're going to decide. So that's the show, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you saw the fights and you thought I was way off on something, or if you agree wholeheartedly with something, let me know what you think. If you have a different idea on who these guys or girls should fight next in their next fight, or if you have a card that you know of that's coming up that I'm not talking about on here on Facebook or Instagram. Speaking of which, go over to Facebook and Instagram, like the pages over there. On Facebook, it's One More Round with Rob, and on Instagram, the handle is @OneMoreRoundRob. So you guys can go over, like and follow those pages. You'll get some more updates on stuff that's going on throughout the week, as well as seeing what cards I'm breaking down and what fights I'm breaking down for you guys. Here on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, comment below, all that good fun stuff. And as always, hope you guys stay happy, healthy, and safe until the next time. And congratulations, guys. You just went one more round with Rob. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.